So on the second paper of this packet, the first paper, you have the sphere and the value scale. The second paper, I want you to try something a little bit more organic. And I know that you have not been taught how to draw eyes, so what I want you to do is just really focus on making sure that you're able to grid one eye from a small place to a larger place and the shading. You guys in the packet were given a paper that looks like this, in which Miss Kine very kindly wrote some notes on it. And we were asked to fill. The only issue is this eye does not have a full range of value. It is extremely way too high contrast and therefore doesn't look realistic. And it doesn't give you an opportunity to practice the value shading and things like that that you need for those fine motor skills. So instead, we're going to be using this one. So the first thing, if you absolutely need to do this, is to go through and just split this into quarters if you need to. So that you're able to graph this over to this one as well. You can just eyeball it, does not have to be perfect. Sometimes I go through and I measure like this, so I know that this is somewhere very close to the middle. Okay, it does not have to be perfect. All right, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to graph this, making sure that we pay attention to proportion. So we're going to measure from this part of the eye over to here. So line your pencil point up, move your thumb back to that line. How many of those does it take to get the other side? 1, 2, 3 brings us to there. So it takes almost 1, 2, 3, 4 of these to get in the center. So if we were to break this down to 4, I would say that starts right about there. 2, perfect. 3, perfect. 4. Okay, so we know that the eye comes to here, and then when we look at this point, the eye comes just past this. So the eye should come to right about here to here. So then how many of those does it take to get the height? One of those comes all the way up to this second line. So we know that the crease for the eyelid comes to right here, which means the eye comes to right here. And then we really just focus on this one line. And it hits right above this line, okay? So it comes to right about here. So now what we do is we focus on the shape of that. Oh, that's to the top one, sorry. Bottom, bottom, bottom. Wondering why that looks so arched. All right, so it's gonna come up a little bit. It's kind of squared off if you see that. All right. Now, we want to try and keep our lines light, but we know that that lash line is pretty dark anyway. Now what we want to do is focus on the line that makes this part of the eye up next. And how far down does it come from here? It actually comes pretty close to that middle line. Comes up, comes down. All right. Clean up your edges, make sure your lines look good. The next thing we want to do, we want to make sure that we have room for that double lash line. And then we're going to look at the sphere of the eye, the iris. It should be circular. So what I do is I get my hands moving, I figure out where I want it to be, and then I know that it should come down, it should touch with that second inner thickness of the eye and come back around, and it would eventually be a circle. This keeps it from looking like a circle. Then you get rid of those reference lines that sit all the way around, and you clean everything up. We know that that lid sits right up there. All right, the next thing we do is we place the iris. From there we figure out where are our highlights going to go. They're going to go here and here. Okay, then we look at the lid, the shape of the lid. You see how kind of square it is? It comes up, and right here it starts to bend. So look at where it starts to bend and start to think about it in terms of other objects. You have to start comparing it in terms of other objects. So it sits right about here. Now it's actually really dark, so what I'm going to do is just lift that a little bit with my kneaded eraser so it's not so prominent. Alright, so we have the basic outline contour line drawing of our eye. The next part to this is to go through and I like to start establishing contrast right off the bat. So I know that this whole area in here, the iris, is the darker part of the eye. It's probably the darkest spot in this entire composition. So if you look at the entire top of the eye, you can see that it's almost pretty much as dark as the iris. So we're going to go in and we're going to start making all of this extremely dark. Okay? And then what happens is it starts to fade off. And then you have to also look at the shading of the iris. Now, this is where I kind of pull lines from the inside to the outside. You can see that I'm using my 6B because I need darker, like thinner kind or thicker kind of really beautiful soft lines, and that's why I use my 6B. I'm gonna go ahead and just render this down. Now if you look around the eye, you can see that there is a really nice dark ring around the eye. So we're gonna go through and put that dark line, only we want that dark line to kind of meld out. It should be really hard on one side, the side meeting the white of the eye, and then on the inside it should be really super soft. There we go. It's starting to look like an iris. So the next thing we want to do is we want to start giving this a little bit more definition because we know that the lash line is going to end up being really thick. And truth be told, there's a little tiny, because the eyelashes stick out, and in this one you can really kind of see the shape of the eyelashes, the shadow. But there's a little tiny overhang of value that happens at the top of the eye. So we want to just go ahead and get that in. Eyeballs are round, so as they go back into the corners of the eyes themselves, they're going to actually start to get a little bit darker as well. You can kind of see that right in there. And actually it's really, really dark right in here. You turn this however you need it to be turned. Alright, so from there we start shading the lids. So I'm going to start putting down a really nice general coat of pigment. Our lead over this with my HB. And I know that, make sure that you get rid of all of this grid. I know that it's going to kind of branch out all the way around. So I'm just building it up. Alright, it's all shaded in. The next thing I want to do is I want to start creating more contrast. So especially with the lids. The lids come up and come around like that. And they're really dark right in this area. I'm going to go around. I'm getting rid of that line though because I'm doing one side a little bit harder and the other side I'm really bringing in the value and kind of rendering it out from light to dark. Right? So it starts to feel deep. I want that eyelid to feel like it's going back into space. Now we're starting to lose some of our highlights. So let's go ahead and get some of the shading down here done along the bottom lash. We're looking through the lashes. The lashes are the last thing that you should be doing, period. Go in and start to get this in. We have a couple little tiny lash shadows that are going on in there. And then this is very soft. And we want to make sure that we keep a nice highlight along this, because really what's going on is this line right here has shadow within the eyeball itself. Really dark green here, which allows for just a little tiny bit of value there. Alright, so now we're starting to have an eye, but we want to make it look feminine. So what we have to do is look for any highlights. I feel like right in here could use a little bit of a highlight. You have two options. You can either use this cap eraser, which can be a little bit harder to control, or you can use your kneaded eraser and you want to pull it out in just a small little area, start to pull. We're looking to create those lighter values in there to really make those dark eyelashes that we're getting ready to put on kind of pull up. All right, that's coming together. Now we want to focus on our eyelashes. Let's go in and just lighten it up a little bit over here too. And I feel like there should be a nice clean highlight right in there. And we'll go a little bit darker right in here. All right, now our eyelashes. Eyelashes are not meant to be like the sun, okay? In fact, they should very much be very organic, where they are not perfect at all. So the trick to this is to have a nice thick base. You could do either pencil, a nice thick base, and then you're going to come up and taper off. So kind of like this is what I do. And then what I do is I go back in and I just make sure that I have a really nice thick to thin. Eyelashes need to taper. They should go from dark to light. They should not just stop. Okay, they have to have a really nice thin line at the top. So you want a really nice sharp pencil. And we're going to start over here on the outside because it's the thickest, and we're going to just start applying them. Now you do not have to have them look exactly like the picture. You want some overlapping though. I cannot stress to you how important it is for you to have some that are a little bit longer, some that are a little bit shorter, so that they feel very organic, and you don't want too much of them. You're going to naturally have more over here at the end, but as you come up, it's going to be thinner. It should really follow contour like this, straight up in the middle, and then again over on that side. So make sure that the ones that sit over here, there's just a few of them, follow that contour, and as they come up, we're going to get straighter. And then they're going to slowly start to follow contour like that, okay? All right, I actually do prefer to work upside down for this part. You want to make sure that you have a nice, thick, organic base. And it should not always the perfect, or the same width, if you will. Alright, so we have enough. Now we go through, we do a few just on the bottom over here. They should really thick to thin. More sparse at the bottom, a little bit less. Very much lighter, but they should still follow the contour of the eye. Just like that. Make sure when you're done you clean up your edges. Everything looks the way that you want it. And you put it down. Do you see how the eye fills up the space? You have a full range of value. Don't forget to go in and put the little tiny, there's like some lash stuff right there in the highlight you can get to. It's all about detail.